The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
Lack of communication. So if you're a male, if you're a man, and you have a habit of lacking in your communication, you may want to tune in today. Specifically, if you're married, you may have this issue also, this lack of communication. So I'm going to tell you guys a little story. The story is this. Last Friday, I had a guy that works for me, a video guy, reserved to come out, shoot some videos. We're going to go down the beach, down to the pier, down to all these cool spots. Well, my wife invites me to come to lunch with my kids at the park since they got out of school early. So I decided that it would be a good idea to invite the camera guy. And I was like, hey, my kids are out of school. You know, it's kind of hard to get all of them rounded up. Let's go to the park and shoot some video. So I proceeded to message my wife, hey, I have the camera guy here. We're going to come and shoot video with us playing at the park with the kids and just kind of interacting. And my wife sends me back a message. Here I'm thinking, oh yeah, she's going to be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. She sends me back a message saying, well, we're not really prepared. And so as I hear that, I automatically create a story and I say, well, maybe she just doesn't want to come. Maybe she just doesn't want to doesn't want to be filmed. Maybe she doesn't want to be on camera. So I started thinking of, okay, like, I'm going to go anyways. I'll just get my kids and I won't really get my wife. You know, even me talking about it is like, dude, are you kidding me? So anyways, I tell the camera guy, hey, listen, my wife doesn't really want to be in the video. She, you know, it's her hair. She wants to make sure she looks good, all that stuff. So we're just going to mainly get my kids. So don't really focus on my wife, focus on me and my kids. As we showed up, of course, I didn't introduce my wife. So she was pissed about that, which I didn't really know at the time. And then, you know, me and my son played some basketball. We played with the kids. I thought it was fun. We end up leaving after about 45 minutes and we end up going to, you know, all these other locations where we're shooting video. And later that night, me and my wife go out to dinner and we're out on date night. We're talking, we're having this great conversation. Like literally just having great conversation. We're having some fun. You know, we had some margaritas and, you know, we're a couple down and all of a sudden my wife brings up the videographer. And at the time she had no real idea if, you know, this guy was a videographer or if he was taking photos. So she begins to say, well, how did the photo shoot go? And I said, well, it was actually a video shoot. And don't you remember telling me? And she's like, no, I don't. And then she started in just talking about how, you know, she was upset that I didn't really give her any time. I didn't take any video of her. It was all me and the kids. And I'm like, hey, I thought you didn't want to be in there. I thought you didn't want to be in there. You told me that you weren't prepared. And so I took that as, hey, don't record my wife. So yeah, you're right. I created this story when you told me that said, hey, you didn't want to be in in any of the pictures or any of the video. And so as we began to talk about this, I began to get irritated. I began to get pissed off and I began to get triggered thinking, hey, here I am, like actually looking out for you, looking out for my wife, you know, thinking she's not ready and she doesn't want to be on camera, and I'll just give her space and I'll just get what I need with me and the kids. And here she is thinking, hey, this asshole came and met us at lunch and didn't even want to be in the same video with me. And the crazy thing is like, that wasn't what I wanted at all, but because of my lack of communication, things were not clearly communicated. And I began to send in the wrong signals. I began to create stories inside of this place. You see, the relevant thing inside of this is, you know, there's often times where we're out on, you know, date night, like for me, and things get brought up. And it's kind of like, okay, well, do I want to continue down this path, or do I want to go down the path of, hey, maybe I'll just forget about what's being said? Well, I began to get even more pissed off, even more frustrated. And here's the thing is, like, typically when you're in a conversation, there's not much argument if you're standing in your truth. There's not a lot of argument in standing in your truth. And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, if I'm telling the truth, it's just a different way you take the stand. Now, when you're telling a lie, you will defend yourself. You will find a way to defend yourself. And here I am defending myself in this restaurant where I'm beginning to raise my voice. Other people around us can probably hear I didn't really care. And then I proceeded to go a step further. I told my wife that she's acting like a bitch, that I was like looking out for her. I was looking for her best interest, and she couldn't even see that. And I continued on, and we went back and forth. And all of a sudden, our date night went from this great romantic conversation to literally me causing a scene, yelling, not really yelling out loud, but like talking loud and arguing and fighting and all these things. And then all of a sudden, everything went silent. Literally everything went silent. And for the next 4 hours, 5 hours, like literally we would pretty much just be silent. I didn't say anything on the way home. My wife didn't say anything on the way home. And it just was this awkward silence. Even getting home to the babysitter, I paid her and then kind of checked out and was like, didn't even really pay attention. But the relevant thing inside of this is like, hey, when your date night goes wrong, or generally when things go wrong, it's because we're not clearly communicating. And for me in this situation, I was not clearly communicating, and I started to create stories. So in the beginning, I was like, hey, we're going to come and do this video. My wife's like, I'm not prepared. Well, it was that the kids weren't prepared. So I created a story that said my wife didn't want to be in the video. She then created a story that I didn't want her in the photos or the video. And if we get into this a little more, I'm not really a planner. So go back to me thinking it would be a good idea just to show up with this video guy and do some videos. My wife's a total planner. So of course, she's like, hey, we're not prepared. But when you think about this, and when I think back about this, it all comes back to this level of communication. It all comes back to being able to communicate what you clearly want in the moment. And the lesson was very simple. Without clear communication, I will create stories and false expectations. You see, I lacked communication. I lacked the details. You guys have all heard details matter. Well, guess what? I lacked details and I lacked communication, which caused a shitstorm on date night. Now, I think about this, how I didn't communicate clearly what I was planning on doing. And I had a certain way that I wanted this to go. Like, do you ever have this issue? Do you ever have this issue that in your mind you've created exactly the way you wanted things to go, but then the reality of it is you don't communicate that with other people. You don't communicate that with the people you're working with. Maybe some of you guys can relate to me that own your own business with your employees. How often do you sprint out ahead of your entire business while your employees are stuck 200 yards back and they're like, man, what the hell is going on? Like, why is this guy doing all this. Like, he's not even like leading us. He's just running out ahead. I used to do this in business all the time. I would create all this new cool stuff and then I'd run out and want to launch and implement it. And I couldn't get any of my team to follow me. I couldn't get any of my team to come with me. And it would end up causing more friction and drama than anything else. Now, in my relationship, it's no different. When I don't clearly communicate the details of how and what I want, my wife gets pissed off. And the crazy thing is I then get pissed off back because she's mad. So here's the real question. Where in your life are you creating stories about your spouse? Where in your life are you creating these false expectations? Because here's what I know. If you don't communicate clearly, you will be creating stories. If you don't communicate completely the details, you will be living in a world of false expectations, which is not a very fun place to live when you're out on date night and you're with your wife and you go from having a great conversation, connecting, being with each other, and in less than an hour and a half, all of a sudden, not even talking to each other on the way home. Now, the rest of the story I will give you is this. We got home. We didn't talk, sent the babysitter on her way. And then later that morning, I worked through what is called a stack. And the revelation I got from it was exactly what I wanted to talk about today, which was this whole idea of lacking clear communication and just being able to communicate clearly what I want. In my mind, I had one thing, and then in real life, I didn't actually communicate what that was. And so I was living in a world of stories and expectations, which eventually caused chaos. It caused me and my wife to get into a huge fight and ruin our date night. The next morning, I would message her and just apologize to her and just say, hey, like, I'm not proud of what I did. She actually ended up making a post on Instagram and Facebook about it. I was like, oh, shit. And so I just said, hey, I'm not proud of what I did, but I am willing to admit that what I did was pretty shitty. And I apologized and just said, hey, listen, like, I love you. You know, let's move on and let's course correct. And I know there's some things I need to work on, and communication is one of them. So, guys, I appreciate you being on today. Maybe this episode hits home with you. Maybe you have some issues just being able to communicate, whether it's with your spouse, your business, even in other relationships, what you clearly want, what you truly want. I would love to get into a one-on-one conversation and see how I can help you, take you and your life to the next level, and for you to increase your potential in your relationship. My relationship with my wife is far from perfect, but what it is this. Before, this would have taken us down for 1 to 2 weeks. Now it takes us down for like hours. And then we can come back and finish out the weekend, finish out our day with each other and just being able to communicate what's going on. So this was a huge lesson for me. I wanted to share this because I think this is a real part of marriage. Like, it's easy to just turn around and be like, hey, screw you. I don't need to be with you anymore. That's easy. The hard part is actually digging in and working on this and then having the courage to actually talk about it. It's not fun being called out. It's not fun telling your wife she's acting like a bitch and then to have that mirror pointed back on you. So I appreciate you guys being on here. Let me know if I can help you any way. Email me, jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. I would love to know more about you and ways that I can help you. You can also check out my website, habitbasedlifestyle.com, and get some free resources on there. Until next episode, have an awesome day.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse, you.